This is the Metaspeed Sky Paris. It's got a new foam, a new upper, and a new shape. We've already seen it do some amazing things on the feet of America's fastest marathoners. Now it's time to see how it does for non-elites. Let's lace up the Metaspeed Sky Paris and take it for a run. Yo, what's going on? My name is Kafuzi and I'm a non-elite runner who reviews shoes here on YouTube. And today I'm going to talk to you guys all about the new ASICS Metaspeed Sky Paris. But before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that ASICS sent to me for the purpose of review, so I didn't have to pay for these shoes. However, nobody's paying me to make this video or to include their shoe in this video, and no one's gonna get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So, with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the new ASICS Metaspeed Sky Paris. And first, let's go over some specs. This is a 39.5 millimeter stack height shoe with a 5 millimeter drop, giving us 34.5 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot. Those are similar numbers to last year's Metaspeed Sky Plus, but it is 0.5 millimeters taller. FF Turbo was a nylon-based foam, but FF Turbo Plus is made out of Peba. It's not Pebax, but it's a custom formulation of Peba that is specific to ASICS in this shoe. And ASICS tells me that the difference between the Peba in the FF Turbo Plus versus the nylon that's in the FF Turbo is that the FF Turbo Plus is lighter, softer, and has more energy return. The other thing that's notable about the midsole this year is that they've changed the geometry up quite a bit. They've extended the late rocker that's in the shoe even further than how late the rocker was in the Metaspeed Sky Plus. And they've also toned down how much the shoe curls up. Last year, the front of the shoe curled up way higher than kind of where the pads of your foot were sitting. This year, it's a little bit more level with the toe line, but we do have a little bit more of a flare in the back of the shoe back towards the heel. The other big difference that I've noticed is that there is more of a protrusion over here on the medial side, right underneath the pad of the big toe. That's a little bit more prominent, while it seems like they've scooped in a little bit further underneath the arch of the foot. And to protect all of this midsole foam, we still have the ASICS grip that is pretty much in the same exact configuration as last year, except it's got a little notch cut out over by the pinky toe. Moving to the upper, we have what ASICS is calling the Motion Wrap 2.0, which is an update to what we've seen in the Metaspeed Sky Plus and the original Metaspeed. In this Paris version, we have a throwback to the old Meta Racer, which was one of my favorite uppers that ASICS has ever made. This material is a little bit different, so it's kind of in between the material on the Meta Racer and the Metaspeed Sky Plus. Last year's material was very strong, but it seemed very scratchy on the foot and it didn't feel like it breathed quite as well as it could have. They've changed all that in the Motion Wrap 2.0 and the material is now more breathable and it just feels softer on foot. They've also changed the last of the shoe, or in other words, the shape of the foot that's in here. And so there's a little bit more room on that pinky toe, which has perennially been one of the complaints that I've had about the Metaspeed series, is that it tends to be a pinky toe crusher. No more for this one. They've changed the shape of the foot, not only to give you more room for that pinky toe, but also more volume and height in the toe box as well. Now, even though they've put more foam into this shoe, they've been able to cut the weight. This year's Metaspeed Sky Paris comes in at a weight of 6.5 ounces or 183 grams.
Yeah, even though everyone's invited, I can't deny it's a lonely party.
So now that we've talked about the paper specs, let's talk about what it's like to actually run in the shoe. And I feel like the Metaspeed Sky Paris is a shoe optimized for marathon race efforts. I feel like it's balancing the aggressiveness of racing with the comfort and cushion that you want to take for 26.2 miles. The Metaspeed Sky Paris gives me a lot of fast, bouncy cushion as I'm charging along at marathon efforts. And I feel like this year, more than any other year, they're finally giving us a shoe that feels the way that Sarah Hall looked as she was coming down the finishing stretch of that 2020 marathon. She was just charging hard, coming down the home stretch, taking over for second place at that race. And the amount of cushion that she had on the bottom of those shoes just always looked so pillowy soft while also being aggressively fast. And I feel like the Metaspeed Sky Paris delivers on that visual promise. The Peba that's in the Metaspeed Sky Paris definitely feels like it's softer, and I do think it is actually softer. And that's kind of a weird thing to say, but I think one of the things we have to think about is comparing it to the Metaspeed Sky Plus. Whenever I look at the footage of myself running in the Metaspeed Sky Plus, I'm compressing and deflecting the foam quite a bit. I'm like squishing this shoe with every foot strike, but it never really felt like a soft shoe. Soft was definitely not a word I would use to describe the Metaspeed Sky Plus. And I think a lot of that's because even though I was moving the foam quite a bit, it was doing it at a very quick rate. And so what you felt underfoot, even though it was cushioned, it didn't feel soft. Does that make sense? In this shoe, the Metaspeed Sky Paris, I feel like the rate of compression and decompression is very different. And so I feel like it's compressing the same maybe amount, but it's doing it a little bit slower. And so the amount of forces that you feel under your foot is going to be less. So it feels softer to you as it's going through its motion of compression and decompression. And I also feel like that pace of change, the amount that it's moving and the time it takes to move, is also a timing that works out really well for your marathon efforts. So I feel like they've definitely improved on the run experience when racing at marathon efforts. That being said, I feel like when I've taken this shoe for workouts that are at VO2 max type of efforts, when I'm trying to run at 5K pace, I do feel like the shoe feels a little bit mushy. It's still fast, but it doesn't feel like 5K PR pace aggressive fast. But that's fine because this isn't intended to be a 5K racer. It's supposed to be a marathon racer. And when I take it through the variety of paces from threshold pace down to marathon pace and even a little bit slower than that, I feel like that's where the kind of rate of compression of the shoe feels really nice in the Metaspeed Sky Paris. And I feel like it's designed specifically to attack those two pace ranges. And for a longer marathon effort workout that I did in this shoe, I really felt like the more tired I got at marathon pace, the better the shoe felt for me and the more it felt like the shoe was helping me. The slight tweaks to the rocker shape, but also the upgrade to the FF Turbo Plus is what are making this a really exciting option for marathon racing. Now, when it comes to the upper, I went true to size in the Metaspeed Sky Paris, and I feel like that was the right fit for me. And it's a much more forgiving true to size this year. Previous versions of the Metaspeed Sky series have been a little bit of a slim fit shoe, even for a racer. The pinky toe would typically get a little bit crunched in there, but with the change to the last, there's a little bit more room. That's definitely noticeable and much appreciated. And again, there's more volume. So for those of you who need a taller toe box are going to appreciate the changes to the upper as well. The tongue isn't gusseted, but it does stay in place because it is connected in here through some of the lace loops, and I didn't have any problems with it moving around at all. There's a little bit more padding in the back of the heel, which I didn't think was a problem in the last couple of models of Metaspeed, but I think it's going to be appreciated by a wider range of runners with the amount of padding that's back here. And overall, the whole upper is a lot softer and more breathable on foot. Next, let's talk about some pairing options if you are looking to race in the Metaspeed Sky Paris. I think there's two other shoes at least that you're gonna wanna use as a rotation for your next marathon training block. And the first is gonna be a daily trainer, Nova Blast 4. This was my favorite daily trainer of 2023. And I think it's going to be an exciting, bouncy shoe for you to take for your daily training runs, the bulk of your weekly mileage throughout the week. If you can find a Novablast 3 that's still available in your size and save a couple of bucks that way, I'd recommend you even do that as well. Novablast 3 or Novablast 4 are going to make for a great daily training option for you. And because I think that the Metaspeed Sky Paris is a little bit mushy at some 5K type efforts, I'm going to point you to the Takumi Sen 10, one of my favorite 5K, 10K racers that's ever been made. It's not a shoe that I think most people can take for a marathon distance, but if you're racing a lot of 5Ks or doing a lot of 5K effort work in your marathon training block, this is a must-have shoe to have in your rotation. And I think those three together will make for a very fun training block. Now let's talk about the buying guide for this shoe and some alternatives that you might want to also consider. The Metaspeed Sky Paris is still going to come in at $250, which I think is a fantastic price point for a shoe of this caliber. And let's stack it up against what else is out there on the market. I think that the shoe that feels the closest, at least in terms of the foam and the Peba formulation that ASICS is using in the Metaspeed Sky Paris, is going to be the Endorphin Elite. Now, the Endorphin Elite uses Power Run HG, which is a Peba-based foam, and there is a much more aggressive rocker that starts much earlier in the Endorphin Elite. But in terms of like what I'm feeling as my foot hits the ground, I feel like these two shoes end up being very similar. If anything, I will say that the Endorphin Elite is maybe a bit less soft of a shoe. In other words, the compression, decompression happens a little bit faster than what's going on in the Metaspeed Sky Paris. But these two shoes are very close, and I feel like if you like the one, you will probably like the other. The Endorphin Elite comes in at a retail of $275, so $25 more than what the kind of standard top tier racing shoe costs. And then the other shoe that I think is worth comparing the Metaspeed Sky Paris against is the Adios Pro 3. I also thought this was a worthy competitor to the Metaspeed Sky Plus because I feel like the Lightstrike Pro foam here is another one of those foams that moves a lot every time your foot hits the ground, but it does recoil back pretty quickly, not quite as fast as FF Turbo, but faster than FF Turbo Plus. Both of these shoes have similar geometries working for them, and I think they're both optimized for marathon racing and maybe not as great if you are primarily a 5K, 10K racer. Both the Endorphin Elite and the Adios Pro 3 come in at a substantially heavier weight than the Metaspeed Sky Paris though, so for those of you who are looking to shave every 1/10 of an ounce possible, keep the weights of those shoes in mind. The Adios Pro 3 comes in at a retail of $250. I'm not seeing it really on sale yet anywhere, at least in the United States. So it looks like you're gonna be paying the same full retail for that shoe, even though it has been out for quite a while at this point. And I think the last shoe that we also have to compare it against is the Metaspeed Sky Plus. Now, I think that there's some people that are still going to prefer the Metaspeed Sky Plus over the Metaspeed Sky Paris, and that's for people that want to have a much more aggressive feeling in their marathon racer. If the timing of that compression and decompression suits your preferences and what you're feeling as you're racing, you're still going to want to reach for the Metaspeed Sky Plus over the Metaspeed Sky Paris. For me, as someone who has raced his fastest marathon in the Metaspeed Sky Plus, I feel like this shoe is going to feel faster in the first 20 miles of the marathon, and my hypothesis at this point is that I think the Metaspeed Sky Paris is going to feel faster in the last 10K of a marathon. And as a fourth alternative, although I'm not necessarily going to call it an alternative, but something else to keep in mind, is that ASICS is still keeping up the Metaspeed Sky and the Metaspeed Edge distinction. The Metaspeed Edge this year has also undergone a significant number of changes. So for those of you who have liked the Edge in the past or who are curious about the Edge are going to want to take a look at this shoe as well. I haven't started my testing of this shoe quite yet. That's going to be next in the lineup. So hit the subscribe button so you can see when that review drops and I compare the Edge and Sky head to head. So those are my thoughts on the Metaspeed Sky Paris. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Monday through Friday over on the Kofuzi Run Club channel. I'd love to see you guys over there in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?